Alright, gamers. Um, Allow me to indulge in a bit of fandom drama even. Um, no, it's not really that. But anyways, so Valkyr is getting a rework, right? It's kind of a big topic for a lot of people. And one thing a lot of people have been kind of complaining about is the health tanking. Now, health tanking in Warframe is this whole thing where basically, if you could just, right? Yeah, right. You see, I'm tanking with my health. I get hit, I hit back, I survive, right? So, a lot of people, their issue with the Valkyr rework, I mean, there's some cool things to it, there's some less cool things to it. There are some changes to paralysis, which is this one. Um, I don't really use it myself, so I don't really. I'm not going to speak on that. But what I am going to speak on is the damage reduction, health tanking situation. Yeah, I was could talk. I could have done like a most critical. The DR situation is crazy, but now I'm not. So as you could tell, right, just now when I was just standing still, right, yeah, I'm eating the damage, right? These are still past level 200. I am not using her fourth ability, which in the rework will increase her armor, and give her life steal and a whole bunch of stuff, right? I'm not doing that. I am simply just I'm playing as if that I'm playing like a even more nerfed version of her. And mind you, I have 464 health, right? It's not a huge amount, dare I say. And I am going through this just fine. The average player, right? Okay, so I know like a bunch of people who play this game, right? And obviously long-time players, you're gonna be doing longer content, right? But at the same time, longer term players might also just be wanting to play the game for fun. Um, and that okay, actually, let me gather my thoughts here, right? So we've got two sets of players, right? We've got the newer players and the older players, and obviously we want a Warframe that is usable for both of them for what they do. Now, the newer player is not even at Steel Path, right? I was asking one of my friends, like, oh, you want to do relics, right? Let's do Omnifisher, right? Then I realized it was Murmur. My friend does not even have Murmur. Does not even have Sanctum Anatomica. See, I just tanked that guy just fine. Um, like the newer player is not even at the hundreds for Steel Path. The newer player is busy doing the story. They are trying to figure out Railjack. So Valkyr as is, right? With my not, by the way, not very optimized build, would be perfectly fine. But then we come to the late game players, the longer term, the old timers, dare I say. Right now, I'm not really there yet, technically, because I've only played this game since like late last year. But what I can say is that someone in late game, right, or later game, right, um, my friends who are playing later game stuff, they're doing EDA, ETA, right? Now, um, I'll probably try and pull up some clips. Oh, bye-bye. Some clips about nowish of my recent video where I was trying to do an endurance run with Yareli. Uh there was no need for invulnerability with that. Like there were like one or two situations where I was like, oh, okay, this is a bit ouch, you know. But most of the run, I was perfectly fine face tanking. So my issue then is where is the problem, right? And I think actually the problem doesn't come with uh the health tanking itself. I think people have issues with trying to use damage reduction, trying to use healing. As you can see, I'm using the Koda Hirudo because the Koda Hirudo can heal you, and that's meant to emulate what Valkyr's talents should do, right? And I'm also using Arcane Reaper for the extra armor, right? And health regen. So my thing is, right, you like is it actually that bad that you guys are like not able to be invulnerable anymore when you can face tank most stuff already? Obviously, I'm not taking her into EDA or EDA right now because I'm saving that for later when I play with my friends. But my point here is like you can do all this stuff face tanking. Why do you need invulnerability? Now, people are saying that, oh, for level cap purposes, you need invulnerability, you need sort of damage gating. And now that's where I'm gonna get to like the topic here at hand, which is that Warframe players don't seem to understand damage reduction. First of all, the first argument, which is that damage reduction isn't enough. Damage reduction is plenty unless you are doing really long endurance content. And I was in 3 hours, by the way, doing alchemy, and I was perfectly fine. Level 1000 enemies. I was perfectly fine with DR. The so obviously, you know, when people say like, oh, level cap stuff, right? You know, level cappers struggle with the DR, right? That's like, okay, sure. That's like you're spending hours in an endless mission. That at that point it's like you're really pushing the limits. But okay, you know, I'll listen because it's important that everybody can enjoy something, right? So if we look at DR, right? Now it's definitely true that you cannot face tank most of like level 9999, right? It's just like a few people can do it. And these few people, you know, I salute them. You know, it's definitely not easy to do, right? But yeah, see. Okay. I kind of got slapped by that guy. All right. I can just M4. Yeah. Anyways, that's a bit awkward. So yeah, DR does have issues. Health tanking does have issues, right? But for majority of content, you're fine. Now, where face tanking and health tanking struggle, right? Now, you're not wrong. You're not wrong to say that, oh, it's like poorly, you know, you simply cannot live past a certain level, right? And therefore we need gates, right? That I think is actually like the backwards way of looking at it. Because the issue is very simply, and I think a lot of people just don't want to admit it, the damage is too high. In later levels, the damage output of the average enemy is far too high, and so it's very difficult to DR through that, and that's why people want gates. Why people want health gates and health tanking. And health tanking is not preferred. Saying that, oh, we should be given easier invulnerability, death gate, health gate, etc. Right? For higher level content, right? I think kind of ignores the fact that the enemies at later levels dealing as much damage as they do is, to put it simply, absurd. Because you don't need that you don't need enemies to be one-shotting you for it to be a challenge, you know. Like you can have enemies deal a lot of damage such that your health moves without doing absurd damage that you basically cannot survive it, and you are constantly being shielded and and health/invulnerability gated. So I think a lot of people just don't really understand what the root cause is. Like they see it. They see that the damage is very high and that you can't really survive the damage output of all of these high level enemies. But the solution they're running to is invulnerability. They're saying, "Oh, we're gonna just play Nyx, or we're gonna play Baruch." And Baruch does have pretty good DR, but that's a whole nother thing. Baruch I don't understand enough to talk about. But Nyx I understand. They want to run assimilate. So the issue, I think, is that people look at DR, they just say, "Oh, it's not good for level cap, therefore it's inferior," right? And therefore the fix to them is let's just disqualify it from late game. I think DR should be made more viable. Now, that's where the other layer of this misunderstanding comes in, right? People seem to misunderstand what remedies that. Now, armor scaling as it currently is has diminishing returns the higher your armor is, but can go up to some pretty good amounts. So, if you get, a high armor build, you can get like 90% damage reduction from the armor, which does multiply with stuff like adaptation and like preserving shell, etc. So it is kind of good in that sense, right? But the issue at the end of the day still boils down to the fact that the thing is, what was it? This person, I saw a video from Sci-Fi. You're talking about it, right? If you have 99% of DR, right? Even if you have that, if a super high level enemy hits you, that's still gonna be a big chunk, even if you are only taking 1% of it. And so to me, the issue isn't that we need to increase it to like 99.9%. What we actually should be having is we should be having reduced enemy damage output scaling. And like I don't think it's gonna be like less of a challenge. I think it's gonna be a situation where you can see your health bar move rather than see yourself get gated all the time. I think the current high level damage outputs are absurd, and they just need to be toned down a bit, really. When it comes to enemy damage scaling, it needs to kind of approach a plateau such that when you talk about level capping, you're not talking about like, oh, can we like rolling guard and then iframe through like shield gate and then like, you know, and then I'm gonna overguard gate with secondary fortifier. Like, no, right? It should be, can I, have the DR to reasonably without the need of like 5 specters, right? Or whatever. Without the need of, oh, what was it? I'm trying to remember now. I think it was like running Eclipse and then also a Citrine Spectre, right? Like, without the need to do all of that, where did he go? To be able to see a health bar move without vanishing immediately. So, yeah, I think it's not gonna be something that most people comprehend. I don't think it's something that most people are gonna see, like, are gonna think of, because they're gonna think, how can I be more tanky? Because, uh, let me just say, it's human nature to want to just be, oh yeah, I'm super strong, I'm super cool, rather than, oh, they are not as strong as me. It's it's kind of it's kind of baked into a lot of us that the way we look at a power fantasy is more so me strong rather than they not as strong, because you know you're playing Warframe, right? You're trying to be like, I'm super powerful and awesome and cool, therefore I'm the powerful one, and not the fact that they're not as powerful as me, because at that point you're just saying like, oh, okay, they're not a challenge because they're not a challenge, not then, rather than like, I'm better than them and I'm the challenge to them. So it does have to do with the mentality, right? And that's why I think people are saying like, oh, buff like player health armor scaling, when we should be looking at enemy damage, right? It's okay to admit that enemies are hitting hard. It's not that, oh, I am not being given enough to be strong. It is that enemies are given too much that I am proportionally weaker. Yeah. So, yeah, there is a little bit of pride baked into that, and that's completely understandable. You are playing Warframe after all. But yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on this whole thing. Is that like, I completely understand that we want, well, there's two schools of thoughts right now, which is that one group wants more gating, and the other group wants damage phase tanking to be viable. And I understand both groups, and I think that I agree more with the phase tanking side of things. I think phase tanking should be given a fresh lease on life, basically, and the ability to, this guy's stuck, like the ability to actually be viable in late game. But at the same time, I think that actually the way that they are trying to suggest it is off, and that, yeah, you kind of can't just say make the player more powerful. You kind of have to admit at some point that, like, with all the number crunching, that you have to also accept, like, that, like, oh, the enemy's number is very high, And so it's not just make me stronger, it's also, can you please make them weaker? Yeah. So I understand not everybody wants to admit the fact that they are not as strong. Um, but yeah. Yeah, that's just my 2 cents worth. I think Valkyr is fun and that the rework is gonna make her quite interesting. I'm looking forward to Rip Line being actually usable as a mobility tool. I used to use it, but I mean, you can't really. You can kind of, but it's kind of clunky. Um, I'm also looking forward to paralysis being this kind of slow stun thing, but the cost is a bit much. But yeah, I'm putting faith in DE. I think they can figure it out. I think the player base has a lot of thoughts that are a little bit misled. And at the end of the day, we just need to admit that like enemies at high levels hit too hard. Um, they need to be toned down. Yeah, let me know if you agree, disagree, etc. Share your thoughts in the comments. And you can always subscribe. I do stream a bit of Warframe here and there. Also known as about twice a week. Well, once at least once a week. Um, check the description for my socials. I've got a Discord, and obviously you can argue with me on Twitter. That seems to be the place people love to argue on. And I'll see you all another time. Bye.